like I've been stressful.
So you know, they have a list, and it's a place to push. It's not. They're not going to be like every day. It's matches the
one criteria at a time.
Right, I'm gonna. What is it? Another like 4 years left.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this, they got through it.
I was gonna say.
We got through Arabic, true, but we missed all the other.
They died. They did the first part.
Right. They just died.
Yeah, they just died.
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
Hey guys, how are we doing? I need to use my phone.
Maybe. Oh, you broadcast from a phone? How did you sign it?
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Again, my name is Elie. Kaunfer. I'm excited to learn with you about what I was calling the most famous Jewish love poem, Lekha Dodi. It's a poem that, actually, the new New York Times Magazine layout now has a poetry column, which I was very excited to see. But typically, poetry doesn't quite elevate to the level of deep familiarity as maybe it once did, but Lekha Dodi sort of pushes through that wall and is something that is said in now, actually shockingly, said in pretty much every Friday night service that you would come across. It wasn't always the way. So what we're going to do today is look at the poem in depth, and we're going to understand it, or try to understand it, in the context of its original writing, which is by a Kabbalist. Okay, the poem was written by a Kabbalist, and therefore has a lot of Kabbalistic themes, which could use a little bit of unlocking. Now, I should say up front, although I'm over 40, I am not a Kabbalist. I am not a Kabbalist scholar, and a lot of the sort of unlocking of the secrets of Lekha Dodi I came across in this book by Reuben Kimmelman called Lekha Dodi u'Kabbalat Shabbat HaMashmaut HaMisti, the mystical meaning of Lekha Dodi and Kabbalat Shabbat, which is unfortunately for the English reading public only in Hebrew, but soon to be translated, although I've been saying that for like the last 5 years. But one day it should be translated. And I'm not gonna, Reuben Kimmelman's doing the translation. He's alive and well and translating it, but it doesn't seem to be his top priority. Anyways, I'm going to pass out the sheet. And what we're going to do, this is just sort of the way I like to study liturgy, is that you're going to actually encounter the words and have a moment to, even if you're familiar with it, to ask some questions about it. So that's what we're going to do for the beginning here. Here we go. Okay. Great. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do just for a few minutes is I'm going to ask you to turn to your neighbor, and you are going to read this poem out loud. And what I want you to do is ask as many questions as you can about it. Now, the question can be either like a meaning question, I don't understand this word, or a structure question, why is it organized in this way? Or it could be a big theological question like, what is a bride and what does that have to do with Shabbat, etc. But I want you to just ask whatever question comes to mind. And we're just going to focus on page 1, which is the full poem. I'm not expecting you in like 7 or 8 minutes to get through the whole poem. And if you only got through the first line, that is, say, the refrain, and you spent all 7 minutes on that, I would be more than pleased. Okay? But I know some people like to, move along. So you're allowed to move along, but don't feel under any pressure. Just turn to the person next to you, read it out loud, and ask as many questions as you can. Am I aligned?
Michael up. That the person's wife. Going out to yeah, so we're getting married to the Shabbat meeting. Is that all about? Like a
celebrating
Shabbat is like the bride, and I guess okay, so we don't exactly know. These guys will catch you up.
I said, wait. We're up to first stage. Right? And
You'll get two
right there.
stab it, stab. Yeah. Teaching the stab and remembering the stab. Also, when you add on God, I gather it's one God. One God is presented. But see, that you word.
The audio is working, but not the video. Do you need another computer? I mean, I have one in my bag. Yeah, I'll just we're gonna use my phone or something. I'll grab my.
Let's walk out. Let's really walk.
A little bit
Anointed.
There's no battery.
Let me
see if I can go. You can even, let me see if I can get it.
You've been sad. You know, God's going to make you feel a lot better. From Shabbat to Jerusalem. Destruction, confusion, chaotic. Actually, why we jumping to Jerusalem now?
Okay, take another minute. One more minute.
But that God is going my question is, why are we jumping from the staff? To me, that is, but let's they are
Okay.
Was it said sanctuary between royal city above?
Let's bring it back together. I'm curious to hear from you. Again, for those who came in late, you are actually the more experienced the learner you are, the slower you go. So the award goes to the people who got through the least amount of tests. Okay. But I would love to hear from you. Sorry, that's okay. What are some questions that you came up with? What struck you? What was unusual, odd? Yeah.
Okay, I was studying science, and I was the one who had this particular question regarding the chorus. It seems to me to set up a dichotomy between earthly love and the love of time as exemplified by Shabbat, which is called the bride, and yet he's asking his beloved, which would be in earthly or profane or physical.
Okay, good. What are the characters that are playing around in that refrain? The Lekha Dodi likrat chala b'nei Shabbat v'Kabbalah. You're already noticing. I think if I'm going to phrase you, what you're saying is a sort of a full question. It seems like there is some intermingling between different metaphors or different characters. You're dividing it between earthly and heavenly, which may be one way you could look at it. But even if you're just going to identify who all the characters are in that refrain, it gets a little complicated. Okay, so what's going on in the refrain? Who are the characters in the refrain, and how are they interacting? Okay, that's good. That's one question. Other questions? Yeah. Benjamin.
Where we go, like Shabbat comes to us. This is spatial. We go after Shabbat.
Okay, so the first word of the whole poem is Lekha. Let's go, or well, actually, it's hard to translate. What's translated here is come or go. There you go. That was a good translation. It either means come or go, but it's some moving direction. We thought that Shabbat comes to us, right? So where are we going and why, and who are we going with? Okay, good. Other questions? Yeah.
Yes, we got up to line 4, so I don't know where we are.
Okay, you're right in the middle of the pack.
Okay. And I'd say one general thing is the connection between one verse and the next is just not at all very clear. We're starting with welcoming the Shabbat. And then we're saying that God is one. Then we're moving to the city, it looks like the city of Jerusalem. That's in some level confusion or destruction, I would say, reminiscent of some destruction. And, then there's comfort for the city the city will be healed and so forth. So it's like, what's that got to do with the Shabbat? Why are we remembering? Why are we saying this? We welcoming Shabbat, and what are the connections? Why are we remembering?
What's the connection internal to any stanza?
And what are the connections between the?
Good. Okay. What's the stanza? Is there any way in which you could decide? This is an ordinal poem. Is there any way in which you start at point A and I move through the stanzas and I end up at point B? Or is there some other organizing structure?
This is an ordinal poem.
Both internal and external, meaning internal to one stanza, and as you
I start move through the stanza. Or is there some other organizing? The questions that, yeah, please.
Something just to follow up on that, something that we talked about was that, you think about when you're in Shul and the Kila singing this beautiful song and you're welcoming the Shabbat, peace and moving into the next week. Song.
All different traditions of. I think we're going to talk about. It's relatively new and accepted, and part of the concern by the people who were adopting it was exactly what you said, which is, wait a minute, why am I talking about destruction? This is Shabbat. I'm singing a nice melody, right? Why am I talking about Jerusalem being destroyed? And if you just look on page 6, which is in the 1700s, adopted Lekha Dodi, but decided that he didn't like the way the stanza read. So he crossed out those words that were talking about Jerusalem being destroyed, which, rise up, go forth from the upheaval. Too long have you dwelt in the valley of tears. Who wants to talk about valley of tears on Shabbos? That's not very Shabbos-ic, right? So he rewrote the stanza, right? He kept the meter and he says, Me'az hayta rosh mamlacha, v'hi atati tatar b'mlacha. From old it was the head of the kingdom, and now it's crowned in kingship. That's a relatively positive, maybe somewhat joyous crowning God. Okay, so you're not the only one who noticed that there's some problems in the theme around here. If you're going to bring in this destruction, what's going on? Why would you do that? Why would the original author do that, knowing full well that it was intended for Shabbat? I'll just show you one of the things that you mentioned. Striking about Lekha Dodi, there's a lot of melodies that we assign to Jewish liturgy. But it's not at all clear that the melodies were an integral part of those liturgical performances. Like you think of Ein Keloheinu, Ein Keloheinu or Adon Olam. Like, how awesome are those things? But mainly because we like to put Yankee Doodle, to like the poem or whatever it is. But when they were originally written, it's not clear. Like Aleinu is a great example. Aleinu has its own melody. People are in love with it or hate it, but it has a melody we associate with it, at least in Ashkenaz. And it's not clear that when Aleinu was first brought in that there was any melody associated. But with Lekha Dodi, there always was a melody. The very first time it was printed, turn over to page 3. So Lekha Dodi was first printed in 1584. The poem existed before the first printing, but the very first time it ever appears in a Sidur, if you look down to number 6 on page 3, ואחר כך אומרים זה הפיוט נאה ומשובח, יסדו בן האור החכם האלוהי, שלמה הלוי אבן אלקבץ ז"ל, בעיר צפת תיבנה ותיכונן במהרה בימינו אמן. And so this was written. This is instructing how to say Kabbalat Shabbat, and tells you that the poem was written by Shlomo Alevi Alkabetz in Tzfat. And then it says, Lachan Shuvi Nafshi Limnuchaychi. You should use the melody that we all know from this psalm, Shuvi Nafshi Limnuchaychi. I think it was the Karlbach melody they were talking about. Like in the very first time that Lekha Dodi ever shows up in a Siddur, they tell you to use it to a melody that's already known from another prayer, another psalm. Okay, so there's something very, sort of integral about Lekha Dodi as a performed musical experience, and we say also in the poem, Uri Uri Shir Daberi, which may also have something to do with bringing forth some sort of music. Okay, other questions that you came up with? Yeah.
So you said at the very beginning that this is the most famous Jewish love song, which I disagree with because I think Song of Songs is more famous as a love song. And as I'm looking at this reading, listening, it doesn't feel like much of a love song to me, except that we keep repeating the chorus, and that's where the love bit is.
Okay, good. Where's the love? Yeah, we can title it that way. Now, whether it's the most, obviously I'm subjective, and plus I wanted to, I don't get you all here this morning. The second most famous, the first the most famous one. But I would say that also obviously it's a tradition to read Shir HaShirim also on Friday night. And some of the references that are here also come from Shir HaShirim. Like Benjamin was asking, where's Lekha Dodi? So if you're hyperlinking in your head from the tefillah to the biblical quote that it's being taken from, you can see, if you stay on page 3, source number 7, Lekha Dodi Neitzei HaSadeh. This is the quote from Shir HaShirim, which is exactly the beginning of our poem, Lekha Dodi Likrat Kala. Lekha Dodi Neitzei HaSadeh, let's go out to the field. So at least we know now where we're going, okay? We're going to a field, and this was, of course, what the Kabbalists did. They actually went outside into a field. But as we'll see, the field itself is a metaphor that has deeper associations than just, isn't it all nice when we go to camp to pray outside? I mean, outside is nice, it's true, but there's something also that's going on deeper with this idea of a field. Okay, but Linda's saying that Shir HaShirim might be the most famous love song, and indeed we recite on Friday night, although I would challenge you how many Jews know Shir HaShirim by heart. Probably more people know Lekha Dodi by heart, so it depends what you mean by famous. It's certainly older. But even Lekha Dodi is in some ways referring to Shir HaShirim, so it's built on it. Yeah, Jacqueline.
I just wanted to go a little bit back to the why talking about Jerusalem. You're talking about a bride that's coming to a wedding to make a connection for the Jewish people in that marriage. And I do think that in the depth of that love is also the burdens of what it means to be a Jew, to move forward. And to make everything just, we have a long, long history, even if we had no bad things ever happen.
Okay. You have a wedding imagery maybe, but you also step on the glass. And there's something about sort of remembering the destroyed reality state of Jerusalem that you would, if you had, the opportunity to rewrite that stanza, you wouldn't cross it out or rewrite something plainer because you want to bring some of that in. Okay, yeah, please.
I've always been interested in the two words in reference to Shabbat, keep and remember. What is the difference? Is it qualitative? Is it degree? Or why use the two different words as opposed to one word?
Fantastic. Okay, Shamor v'Zachor, at the very beginning of stanza 1, keep and remember. What is the deal with Shamor and Zachor? Why do we have two of them? And why is it in the order that it is? We're gonna dive deep into that, and it's gonna sort of open up, hopefully, some larger parts of the poem. Maybe we'll take one or two more, and then we're gonna.
Ripping off of that,
yeah.
Because we both sort of studied the keep and remember, so we understood that, but we were looking at sort of, it's always been sort of two things that yes, you're supposed to bring together, but this is very specific, saying it's really just one thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Good. Shamor v'Zachor, whatever it is, and we're going to get to sort of whatever those refer to. We're bringing b'dibur echad. There's some unity that's going on. So actually, you think that they're separate, but they're actually the same. And that's an image that's going to repeat over and over again in the poem. Last comment. Yeah. Question.
Could it be an attempt to reconcile the two versions of the Ten Commandments?
Okay, good. We're going to exactly go down that path because the rabbis understood Shamor and Zachor, which are the two versions of the commandment for Shabbat that are mentioned in the Torah, as dibur echad, and they were said in one speech act. But yes, so I would say there's something, let's put it this way, they're not only building off of the quote from the Torah, they're also building off the rabbinic understanding that those were said at the same time, but there's a Kabbalistic realm that's sort of overlaid on top of it, which takes it even one step further. Because the question I'll ask you is, and you can see this, just a cliffhanger here, turn over to page 4, number 9. I put these completely out of order so that you could not read them ahead. Okay, so number 9. Zachor v'shamor b'dibur echad ne'emru. Okay, this is the rabbinic understanding of, remember in Shemot, in Exodus, it says Zachor Yom HaShabbat l'kodsho, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And in Deuteronomy it says Shamor Yom HaShabbat l'kodsho, keep the Sabbath day holy. Zachor v'shamor b'dibur echad ne'emru. They were said in one dibur. Okay, that's the rabbinic understanding. There are not two versions of Sinai. There weren't two events. It was one event, and even the word that you think is separate is actually one speech act. But now, bring it back to the poem. What's the question you're left with in the poem? Again, the poet obviously knew this phrase, Zachor v'shamor b'dibur echad ne'emru. How does our poem read? Huh?
They swap the order.
They swap the order. If you wanted to quote the rabbinic text, you would say, the poem would start off, Zachor v'shamor b'diborecha ishmianu el hamyuchat. So why do we switch Zachor and Shamor? What do you think? Sounds better? Maybe, yeah.
To spell his name.
To spell his name, right? Okay, now let's turn over back to page 1. Let's just see how the name shows up in this poem, okay? So now you can always answer a question around structure by saying either it sounds better or there was some need for the rhyme. Like we're going to see L'Shem L'Tiferet V'Litila is a rhyme, even though it comes from a verse that says L'Tila L'Shem L'Tiferet. Okay, so you can always solve something by saying, I need this for the rhyme, and that's why I'm sort of mixing up. This is not really a rhyme, it's the beginning of an acrostic, right? If you notice, starting with verse 1, take the first letter, going down verse 1, this only works in the Hebrew, so you have Shin, Lamed, Mem, Hey, which spells? Shlomo. This is the only thing we know about Lekha Dodi. Is that his name, it's like, this is awesome, he wrote his name in the poem, okay? Shlomo, and then starting with 5, Halevi, which gets you as far as 8, and then you're left with B, verse 9. So, yes, he wrote his name in the poem. There's no mistake that he signed his name in the poem. And maybe that's why he had to switch around Shamor v'Zachor. No denying that his name wouldn't have been spelled out if he'd said Zachor. Zlomo doesn't work as well as Shlomo. Okay? But there's something also that's going on in this poem that goes beyond just the acrostic, because the acrostic actually fails. I mean, it works great until the last stanza. And even in other poems that have this this style of writing the name in the beginning of the poem, you don't end it with a single hanging letter. You might end it with chazak, right? Or those of you who stay up all night on Shavuot and you read Akdamot. Now, unfortunately for all of us who aren't fluent in Aramaic, that's a very long name. And he added a few other things to the end of his name in that poem. It's also like, but nobody ends it sort of clunkily with the bet at the end. So all I'm saying is you answer one question and you raise another question, which is there's certainly a structure to the poem that involves his name, but that only works for verses 1 through 8. Okay, so let's take this as a jumping off point to look further at the structure itself. So we notice that 1 through 8 we understand as his name. 9 is sort of a hanging chad. Now, what about forget about the first letters here for a second. What's the overall valence of 9? Why would I have 9 verses? Remember, I could have gotten away with 8 verses, and that would have left me fine because then I would have spelled out my name right. So what's the importance of 9?
It's an answer to the refrain. We've gone out, now the bride is coming.
Wait, what does that have to do with the number 9?
Oh, you're asking.
You're saying number 9, stanza number 9 is an answer to the refrain. Okay, good. That's interesting. Right. You can't get away without having stanza number 9 in there. You're saying because it's actually answering the refrain. But I'm asking why stanzas. Yeah.
I will assume it has something to do with the Sfirot, because you said it's Kabbalistic, and there are 10 Sfirot, we must be everywhere but the 10th.
Okay, good, right? Remember, this is not, Kabbalists are great at overlaying a poem or a tefillah with a Kabbalistic understanding, right? They're awesome at this, and it's very creative. But you could say, really? I mean, did it really mean that? You know? But this is a poem that was written by a Kabbalist. So you have to give them the benefit of the Kabbalistic doubt, okay? That what Linda's looking for is 10. So now you're ingeniously saying, well, we can't reach the 10th Sefirah. Maybe that's what's the problem. So here, in case you forgot how the Sefirot are organized, I'm just going to pass it out for you here. This is from the introduction to the translation of the Zohar from Danny Matt, which is an amazing series, and if you have the opportunity to pick it up, I highly recommend it. This is just the first page. He sort of gives you a crib sheet on the Sefirot, okay? Now, we're not, as I said, I'm not a Kabbalist, and we're not going to get into the super depths of all these Sefirot here, but to look for what a Kabbalist might be trying to do in this poem from the order of the Sefirot is part of our goal. Now, Linda says we're talking about 9 Sefirot. Sefirot is just literally same word as sphere, okay? But it's an emanation, okay? If there are extras, you can pass them this way. And we have 9 verses. Does anyone want to find the 10th?
Oh,
Sorry?
You were thinking of chorus.
The chorus, right? Now I numbered it 1 through 9. There are indeed 1 through 9. There are 9 stanzas. But once you throw in the chorus, now we're cooking, okay? Now there are 10 sections, okay? Now what's interesting is they're not all equal weight. That is to say 1 through 9 is not the same as the refrain. And the refrain is said in between each of the stanzas. This is one of the ways of understanding how the spheres work, how the sphirot work, where keter is something that we cannot grasp, can't be a regular stanza, the highest level, keter, right? Okay? But it's in everything. It ropes all the way through, which is why like a strict Kabbalist is going to be very careful to repeat the refrain after every stanza, because otherwise you're messing up the whole sphira tree, okay? So you want to make sure this is working. Now let's just look at that refrain again from a Kabbalistic standpoint here for a second. Lekha Dodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabala. Forget about the meaning. We're going to go into the meaning in a second. But let's just look at the the non-meaning. Just the the structure of that. What's the structure of that refrain? Count. What do you see? Remember, we're looking for numbers here. What do you see? There's 7 words. All right, what do we like about 7? Shabbat. That's very nice. It's a poem for Shabbat. It's very nice. Comes out to those 6 songs, okay? Right? But what also is 7? Remember, you're a Kabbalist. For Kabbalists, it's always both and. It's not, no, the answer isn't Shabbat. It really is, it's both and. So it's Shabbat, 7, and the lower 7 sphirot. Okay? For the Kabbalists, they always are dividing this tree. Keter, Chochmah, Bina are the upper sphirot that are hard to achieve, and the lower 7 are the ones that are sort of more available to us. Okay? So you both have Shabbat, and you have the 7 lower sphirot. Now let's look at what else in the structure can you tell me? Go deeper than the words. What else do you see?
3, 4, 5.
What's 3, 4, 5?
Letters.
Yeah, where are the letters?
Lekha is 3.
Oh, good. Okay.
4, 5.
Okay, good. Add it up.
Someone else do math, please.
Okay, the Lekha Dodi is 3 plus 4 is 7. Now what about Likrat? Another 5. 12. Kala? 15. Okay, you got 15 up to the comma. Now Panei Shabbat is 6, and Nekabala is 5. 6 plus 5 is 11. You have 15 and 11. What's 15 and 11? 26. What's 26? Who's with me? What? Yud Hey Vav Hey. Okay? The name of God. Yud Hey Vav Hey. Yud is 10. Hey is 5. Vav is 6. Hey is 5. 26. Sounds crazy. This is written by Kabbalists. Okay, if you don't like it, blame the Kabbalists. But this is how they're seeing the world. Now it's not just 26, but it's also Yud Hey is, Yud plus Hey is 15. Vav plus Hey is 11. The first half is 15, Yud Hey. The second half is 11, Vav Hey. What's the point of this poem? What am I doing in the poem? That's right, exactly. I am unifying God's name. When I say the words, Lekha Dodi likrat kala, panei Shabbat nekabala, I'm taking the name of God and I am bringing it together. I am unifying it. Okay? Now it's esoteric. It's not obvious, but these guys were esoteric. That's their whole game. Okay? If it was obvious to everybody, there wouldn't be a secret society. Okay? It wouldn't be so much fun. Okay?
So this between each of the refrain. I mean, it's also then weaving God throughout everything.
Correct, right? Okay, you're weaving God, and also the Yud Hey Vav Hey, as we'll see, that also has each of the letters of God's name also have sphirot associations. We're going to see that play out as well. Okay, but let's just take one other structure piece before we go into Shamor v'Zachor. Okay, so structure. We mentioned there's 9 stanzas, and it was already pointed out that the theme seems to move around. Okay? At least in stanzas 1 and 2, you don't seem to be talking about Jerusalem at all. What's the theme of stanza 1? If you had to point to one theme.
Commandment?
Yeah, commandment of Shabbat. Okay, that's good. I like that. How about number 2?
The nature of Shabbat.
Shabbat, awesome, right? The Lekha Shabbat says it outright. 3 through 8, there's no Shabbat.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, either explicitly or implicitly, it's talking about Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like explicitly, where do you see it? Mikdash Melech Ir Melucha. Okay, the city of kingship. Or implicitly, Yasis Alayich Elohayich. Right? Which also talks about Jerusalem being rebuilt. You go to sort of the broader quote there. Okay? So you have 1, 2, Shabbat, 3 through 8, Yerushalayim, and then what's 9?
Shabbat again.
Back to Shabbat. Okay? So now you also have Sefirot. 9 is 1 plus 2 is 3. Okay? And then you have the middle 6. Okay, so you have a similar kind of understanding here, where 1 plus 2 is 3, that's the upper 3 Sefirot, Shabbat, the higher Shabbat, and the lower 6 is Yerushalayim, which is not yet redeemed, okay, something that is not fully up as high as it can go, okay, and maybe number 10 here, the refrain is functioning in some, the bottom Sefirah. There's this idea of, well, we say it here, Sof Ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. What does that mean? It's great, but we sing it. Verse 2, last indeed, first in thought. Sof Ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila. So if you're thinking as a Kabbalist, what's the Sof Ma'aseh? What's the end of the creation? Malchut, right? The lowest realm, the Shechina, the most available presence. Sof Ma'aseh b'machshavat tchila was actually originally was the first one. So there's this idea that you think you get this Sefirot because I can sort of emanate from the top down, but there's also a Kabbalistic idea that you could flip it. And then Malchut comes on top, and everything you thought was imminent is actually hard to obtain. And everything you thought was hard to attain is actually imminent. Okay? But remember, it's all about what we're going to try to drive to in stanza 1 is 1. It doesn't really, this is all ephemeral. The divisions of God are all ephemeral. The whole goal here and what Shabbat is about is unification. Okay? Now, you can take this as a Kabbalist and say, yes, I understand all of these Kabbalistic ideas. Or you can take it as a layperson and say, I don't really understand the Kabbalistic ideas, but I do get the idea of 1. There's something nice about unity. And that's part of how I want to enter Shabbat. So if you're having trouble relating to some of these Kabbalistic number games, just think about the way in which, how might we sort of do some unification as we enter Shabbat. That might be one way to sort of bring it to your own life. But again, that's for us as lay people. But the poem wasn't written for lay people. It was written for Kabbalists, by Kabbalists for Kabbalists, okay? So that's what it was. We can sing it. They shared it, okay? It's not only for them. There's no copyright. But to really experience it, that's what those guys were doing. Okay, now, let's go to verse number 1. Let's do one thing. The Lekha Dodi correct structure, but just in terms of the meaning. Who am I talking to? What are the characters here? Who do we have? You have the speaker, who's speaking to the Dode. Okay, so you have the speaker and the lover. And then what other characters do you have? The bride and Shabbat. Okay, so there are 4 characters packed into 7 words. Okay? 4 characters. Now, I understand, well, I might have understood it if it was 3 characters. Right?
Yes.
Right? The Dode.
The bride is Shabbat.
What? The bride is Shabbat. Okay, so let's jump off what you said for a second here, just so you also understand this isn't coming out of left field entirely. And there is this idea that Kabbalists did, it was Kabbalah, it was tradition, it was received. So it's not like they made it up in whole cloth. It's coming from somewhere. So let's just look at page 3 for a second. Look at page 3. This is the Kabbalat Shabbat of the Talmud. Okay? It was a lot shorter. Kind of like everything in the Talmud as it relates to Jewish liturgy. Okay? What happened? I'm in source number 3. Rabbi Chanina would wrap himself in a cloak on Erev Shabbat and say, Bo v'neitzeh likrat Shabbat HaMalkah. Come, let's go out and greet Shabbat the Queen. Rabbi Yanai would wear new clothes on Erev Shabbat and say, Boi kala, boi kala. Okay, so first of all, now getting to Tali's point, why is there a voice number 9? Why is he signing the poem Shlomo HaLevi B? So there's something about Bo'i Kala that precedes the Kabbalists, like by hundreds of years, right? The idea that it's a tradition to go out and say Bo'i Kala is even separate from the poem. Okay, so that is actually a stanza that appears sort of linked to the Gemara. But you're saying the identification of the bride and Shabbat, right? So here we have Shabbat as the queen, Shabbat HaMalkah, and then you also have Bo'i Kala, which seems to refer to Shabbat, although it's only speaking to the bride. And then in another version of the same story, which I brought in number 4, we said that he would say, Rabbi Chanina would go out and say, Bo'un v'neitiv likrat Kala Malkata, the bride queen. Now Shabbat is missing, but some people say likrat Shabbat Kala Malkata. Now they're all there. Shabbat, Kala, and Malka. Okay? Shabbat, bride, and queen are all in what Rabbi Chanina would do. Okay? So there's this idea that you're going out there. There are multiple characters here, and Shabbat equals the bride, equals the queen, and that's all what I'm doing. Now, so I might understand the lover is going to meet the bride, which is Shabbat. But again, let's just understand what's the direction. So I'm the speaker. I say to the dode, the lover, let's go greet the bride. And then instead of saying Pnei Shabbat Tikabela, like I'm speaking to you, I say, go greet the bride. Okay? Go, lover, greet the bride. And then I should say, if they're one-to-one correspondence, go greet Shabbat. The bride is Shabbat, right? But instead I say, Pnei Shabbat Nikabela. Let's go greet the bride. So who's the speaker? We have a lover, the dode. We have the bride. Maybe that's Shabbat. The dode and the bride are going to go greet Shabbat. What's the speaker supposed to do? He's telling the dode and the bride to go greet Shabbat. What about the speaker? What's up with the speaker? Where does he show up? He shows up again in this. Where does he show up?
In the less.
In the less, exactly. So you have the dode and the bride going out to meet Shabbat, and you have the speaker and some other characters going out to meet Shabbat as well, right? Or to put it another way, you could imagine this being a doubling of all the characters, okay? You have the dode, the bride, who greets Shabbat. And then you have another dode, another bride, who greets Shabbat. Let's see how this would play out. What's the most obvious way that you could say, what's the lover and the bride? Let's assign some depth to these characters. What could the lover be? Who would the lover be? I'm a Kabbalist. Who's the lover? Israel, God. Good. It's good. Very, very conceptual metaphor. Go even more human and embodied. You got your good old Kabbalist. Remember, they're going out. They are performing this. They're going out to the field. You got your Kabbalist. Is the Kabbalist married? Yes, the Kabbalist is married. The Kabbalist is for sure married. Okay? Where's the Kabbalist going? Meet his bride. Okay? And this is, again, they're taking this from somewhere. Let's see if I have it here. What? Okay, let's see. Did I bring it? No. When's a Talmid Chacham supposed to be together with his bride? Friday night, once a week. Okay, it's a Mishnah. Sorry, I didn't bring it. Okay, so you have the Kabbalist who unites with his human bride, and when they unite with the human bride, they then see the face of the Shekhinah. They elevate up to see Shekhinah, Malchut, the lowest Sphira. Okay? I do. Okay, great, excellent. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Onashal Talmidei Chachamim Emat, at the bottom of page 5. Amar Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Me'erev Shabbat, Le'erev Shabbat. Every week is when the bride and the Talmid Chacham and his wife come together. Okay? The unification. And by unifying, they also greet Shabbat. Now, you can see this on another level. Because remember, it's not just humans you're playing with, but it's also Sphirot, because the whole goal of this 10 is to mush the 10 back into 1. Okay, we're going to get this back into 1. So how are we going to do that? What's the way it works? Well, now it gets a little graphic. Okay? Okay, so each of these Sphirot have some sort of gender assigned to them. Okay? The middle one, Tiferet, even though it actually has a female ending, a Taf, it's known as a male character here. Son, torso, Jacob, Moses, okay? By means of Yesod, which is, let's see, phallus, okay? You said it out here, I didn't have to say that. Okay? Tiferet plus Yesod, by means of Yesod, unites with Malchut, which is the, right, Rachel, so you have Jacob as Tiferet, Rachel as the other side. These Tiferet and Malchut are meant to unite. Okay? So, Lekha Dodi, Tiferet, the Dod, Likrat Kala, Malchut, okay? Penei Shabbat Nikabala. What happens when Tiferet and Malchut unite by means of Yesod? They go up. And they go up to the higher level Shabbat. This is all over Kabbalistic literature. There's a lower Shabbat and an upper Shabbat. The lower Shabbat is Malchut. The upper Shabbat is, in the top three, is Bina. Okay? Bina is where we're going. So, again, when I say Lekha Dodi Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat Nikabala, I'm talking about two unifications that are happening at the same time. One is the Kabbalist and his bride unite and therefore raise up to the Shekhinah. And Tiferet and Malchut, let's say, the Shekhinah, which they went up to, is now on the bottom of this equation, right? Same Shekhinah. And the Tiferet and Shekhinah unite and go up to Bina. Everything is collapsing upon itself. Everything is becoming one. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah, these two triangles, one sort of ascending, the other descending. Is there any reference to it in terms when I visualize it, I basically get a star shape, two triangles. Is there any, and I know that's a later symbol of Judaism. Is there any corollary, or is it just?
I don't know. I don't know. It's a great question. The shapes here do matter. This was not just a random. You could have drawn it as a circle or as a straight down line, but the shapes matter. But I don't know. I'm sorry if they replaced it that. Okay, we just have a few more minutes, so I want to move down to do a couple of stanzas. Let's do Shamor v'Zachor b'Dibur Echad. So now I said Shamor v'Zachor should have been Zachor v'Shamor, but we switched it for the rhyme. Shlomo Alevi. Got to start with a shin. Okay, but yes, that's correct. And yes, and that's Kabbalistic. Yes, and there's also another idea, which is Shamor. Well, you can figure this out. Zachor. What does that mean? Remember. What's the root of Zachor? Zachar. What does that mean? Male. Okay? So you've got male. Now, what's the male? What comes first? I'll say it another way. Tell me which part of Shabbat I'm speaking about. V'yanuchu va Yisrael mekadshei shemecha. Va is referring to female, right? Shabbat is female. Okay? You rest on it. Ba. Kamatz he. Okay? Ahe. Now in the morning we say v'yanuchu va. Why do we do that? Obviously because Shabbat at night is female in character. Shabbat in the morning is male in character. And what do we do in Mincha? V'yanuchu bam. What happened in Mincha? Male and female go together. Okay? It is all about unifying. Okay? Unifying. Thank you. You choose to unify however you want. Okay? Yes, it is about that, for sure. 100%. Yes.
You can't be a bride without being the virgin. So if you're in the morning the wife, something's happened.
Excellent, 100%. Right. So now Shamor is not only Shin for Shlomo, but also the feminine aspect of Shabbat, right, which happens at night. This says straight out in the Kabbalistic literature. Look at page 4, number 10. Shamor. It was right there all the time. Shamor, page 4, number 10. Shamor hu Shabbat Dilelia, Zachor hu Shabbat Yimama. It's from the Zohar. So, Alkabetz is living, let's say, 300 years after the composition of the Zohar. So he's also referring back to Kabbalistic concepts that long predate him. But Shamor is night, Zachor is day. Okay? So Shamor is female, Zachor is male. So yes, it is to get the acrostic, but also it's to get what is this Shabbat experience supposed to look like, okay? Shamor v'Zachor b'Dibur Echad, night and day, male and female, are actually one. Hishmiyanu El HaMiyuchad. So said the unified God. By the way, Hishmiyanu El HaMiyuchad is the only part of Lekha Dodi that is not a quote from Tanakh or rabbinic literature. Like Shamar Zachor B'Dibor Echad is Zachor B'Shamor B'Dibor Echad. That's quoting from the Gemara. Everything here is a quote, which makes it even crazier that basically he was able to take existing material and just rework it, A, put it into rhyme and meter, and B, overlay it with Kabbalistic meaning. The only subphrase, it's almost like I'm giving it away to you, where the only part where you can't have a resonance from, you know that I created, the poet is Hishmiyanu El HaMiyuchad. This is about unifying God. Okay? Adonai Echad U'Shmo Echad. We know that. Where do we know that from? Don't we know it? Do we know it? I think we know it. Yeah, well, close, yeah. Bayom Ahu, yeah, Adonai Echad U'Shmo Echad. Where do you know it from? Aleinu, the end of Aleinu. Okay? Adonai Echad, Aleinu knew it from Zachariah. It works back, okay? Adonai Echad U'Shmo Echad. Adonai Echad, Yud Hei Vav Hei. Adonai, Yud Hei Vav Hei is one. How's that work? We're mushing it together. Lekha Dodi Likra Kala 15 plus another 11 makes 26. I'm making it into one. Yud Hei Vav Hei and Shem, Shmo Echad. You ever, you sing Aleinu, and you got this Shmo, Shmo, Shmo. Everybody's having a great time. You ever think about what is the shame? What do you mean? God is one, and His name is one. What does that mean? So here for the Kabbalists, shame is, I think it says it here. No. Shame is the name theology is the part of God that's immanent, the part of God I can connect to. So this is Malchut, okay? Adonai Echad U'Shmo Echad is all the upper Sfirot, Adonai, and Shem, the Malchut, all become one. Everything's becoming one, okay? That's the whole, if you space out for the whole thing, the Lekha Dodi, it's about becoming one. That's the whole poem. L'Shem U'Tiferet V'Litila. Now, again, you're a Kabbalist. L'Shem U'Tiferet V'Litila. Let's figure it out. Read that phrase Kabbalistically. What do you notice? L'Shem U'Tiferet. Tiferet. Okay, that's one clue. You have one sirah. That's a giveaway. Okay? Tiferet is here. What's Shem? We just mentioned it. What's Shem? Malchut. Okay? Tiferet unifies with Malchut. Shem and Tiferet. L'Shem U'Tiferet. So you're working up Shem, Tiferet, and Tila is Bina. You work your way up. Okay? When Malchut and Tiferet unite, they go up to Bina. L'Shem U'Tiferet. So this whole stanza is all about uniting. All right, let's just do two more stanzas if we can in our last 7 minutes. One of them is maybe we'll just do one. The center of the poem. Now I said to you that we don't know how this is organized. You could see it as 1, 2, and 9, right? And then you got the middle 6, the Yerushalayim stuff, which could be also, you could read it ordinally. You could read it just as the refrain is the most important. You can also read it, how is Shir HaShirim read? Since we mentioned Shir HaShirim. What's the structure of Shir HaShirim? This is true with a lot of biblical poetry. What's the structure of it? It doesn't start at the beginning and end at the end. Where's the climax of Shir HaShirim where the lovers meet for a second? In the middle, okay? So the way you can organize something is also in the middle. Now, what's the middle of the poem? Well, if you're going to count the words, okay? I'm not going to make you do that. If you're going to count the words, you would end up in stanza number 5. Okay? The very middle phrase of the poem, 65 letters on either side of this phrase, is Kiva Orech Kumi Ori. Now, without me even telling you that this is the middle stanza, how do you know it's the middle? You know it's the middle. How do you know? What signal do you have? That we have repeating here. Okay? Hit ori, uri, uri. It is signaled off. Okay? Hit ori, uri, which means wake up. In between hit ori, and uri. Kiva orev kumi ori. So literally, they like highlighted. They don't have, highlighting pens. They're doubling for you. Hit ori, uri. Okay, that's the signpost. What's in the middle? Kiva orev kumi ori. Or comes twice. Now let's understand what message they're trying to send. Okay, so the middle of the poem is Kival Red Kumi Ori. What's the linguistic theme of this stanza? What's that? What's the linguistic theme? Hit ori, uri, uri. Kival Red Kumi Ori. You know it. It was like 80% of what I just said.
It's right. It's awakening to it's a sunrise image. The light comes up and you wake up.
Okay. So maybe there's a sunrise. The light comes up and you wake up. That's good. I like that. What also? Just look at the word. It sounds. I'm not I can't pronounce the iron, but that's good. Okay, because it sounds more like it's supposed to sound. Hit ori. What's the difference between or and or? What's the difference? Or and or. The ayin and aleph. Okay. What's the difference between an ayin and an aleph? What's aleph in gematria? 1. What's ayin? 70. What does 70 indicate? Give me another 70.
Nations.
70 nations. What does that mean? Weren't you upset when you go to the UN and you say, oh my gosh, there's 130 nations there? There's supposed to be 70 nations. 70 is the maximal, okay? So what you have is, Hit-ori is the most you can imagine, the most diverse, the most diffuse, and or with an aleph is the one, okay? Now, let's just close it with something wild, which is crazy. When God sends out Adam and Eve from the garden, God dresses them. By dressing them, and I'm here in page number 5. Kotnot or. God makes for Adam and Chava kotnot or. Like Ketonet Pasim was for Joseph, a garment of skin. Okay? Or means skin. Okay? But look at, where is it? In Breshit Rabbah. 16. Okay? B'Torah Tosha Rabbi Meir Mitzo Katuv Kodnot or with an aleph. Rabbi Meir was a scribe. They found in his Sefer Torah that it wasn't that God dressed them in garments of skin, but garments of or with an aleph, light. God dresses them in light. Now that is also probably the primordial. It's not that Adam and Eve were naked. It's that they didn't have any skin. That's super naked. It's like the body. Okay? Right? Where are you? When you don't have any skin, you are all light. Because skin is not just skin, it's also about multiplicity, it's diffuse, it's a mask, right? You're walling yourself off with your skin, with your ayin, okay? When you are talking in this poem, Hit-ori, uri, uri, you're actually moving to the middle, which is switching from an ayin, Kival Rev Kumi Ori, to an aleph. Okay, you're going back to a time pre-skin, pre-mask, pre-borders, right? Where we can actually all unify as one. And that's the idea of Jerusalem becoming one entity. Jerusalem is now not redeemed, but on Shabbat we want it to be redeemed. It's coming back as one. So whether it's our own selves, our own identity, it's our relationships, it's our connection to Jerusalem, either as a physical or as a metaphorical manifestation, this is a poem, it's a love poem of unity. Thank you all for being here.
Wow.
If you're staying for the 11 o'clock class, please stay, but if you're not,